Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out another episode of the Aaron Advantage podcast. Today, I am joined by Vince Bowden with Brisket Biscuit, one of the newest food trucks in the Evansville market. Hey, Vince, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I'm actually not doing as well as I had hoped, though, because I was hoping that maybe we could actually get some brisket biscuit to eat before I could record this podcast. But you know what? I know I have an opportunity this evening, so I'm going to see if I can work that out and come check you guys out.
Absolutely. We're going to be out there at Myriad from 5 to 8. We're probably going to get there about 4 to start setting up. It is supposed to rain a little bit tonight, so I hope to see some more people out there anyway.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've been out there at Myriad downtown when they've had some rain and some stuff going on, and I still see people that come out there and enjoy the food. So I bet you'll have somebody come on out and for sure. So before we get into talking really about just the food truck and everything else that's going on, the first kind of question I had was, what got you into the culinary arts and the cooking?
Well, that's actually a funny story. When I was in high school, I needed to find a job after I graduated before I went to college there at Indiana State. And I was looking around trying to find a job. I found I was going to work at Blue Beacon, the truck wash.
Yep.
And they wouldn't hire me because, we don't want to hire somebody that's only going to be here for the summer. We need long-term employees.
Yeah.
So I kept looking. I ended up landing at the Oak Meadow Country Club here in Evansville. And I was working there as a dishwasher, and I got into the kitchen environment, and I just loved it.
Nice.
It was absolutely for me, and I ended up working there for about 3.5 years. And then I went and sold insurance for a while.
That's kind of a hard left turn there.
Yeah, it was, I went and got my insurance, because they actually closed that country club. They closed it down, and they didn't have plans to reopen it as far as I was aware. So everybody that worked there just was out of a job.
Oh, man.
So I was like, well, I guess I got to go find something else. I went and sold insurance for a while. I did that for about 5-6 months.
Yeah.
Hated it.
Oh, no.
Hated it. I was like, man, I got to get back into a kitchen somewhere.
There you go.
So,
cool.
Yeah, I did go to culinary school at Ivy Tech here in Evansville.
Very nice.
But I ended up working at the casino downtown. It was called Tropicana then. It's called Bally's now.
I tell you what, they change the name on that casino more often than they do anything else.
Yeah, Casino Aztar, Tropicana. Yeah. And let me tell you, having worked there, they've had more owners than they've had names. So.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
But I worked there for 8.5 years and, worked my way up the ladder. I eventually was the head chef of the tap house restaurant there on the casino floor.
Very nice.
But it just got to be a little much for me. It was a lot of time I was putting in. It was a lot of stress. And I just kind of decided that I wanted to go off in my own direction.
Very cool. So what made you think that a food truck was the direction that you wanted to go?
Funny enough, I saw the movie Chef.
Oh, man, you already ruined one of my questions. I love that movie. It's so good.
It's such a good movie. And I was like, man, I feel that guy's pain. Watch the beginning of the movie. He's in a corporate kitchen. He doesn't really get to make any of his own decisions.
Right.
It's like, I kind of feel that. That's a lot about how I feel. And then he went off and he's like, I'm going to buy this food truck. I'm like, I could do a food truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I always, whenever I did have days off there, my favorite thing to do was sleep in and then make breakfast.
Nice.
So I was like, I could do breakfast food in a food truck and people would flock. There's no breakfast food trucks here.
There's not a single other one out there.
So I was like, you get into something that nobody else is doing, you're going to have a market immediately.
100%. So that was 100% one of the things, I was going to talk about the movie Chef because I think Jon Favreau really hit kind of the zeitgeist at the time whenever he made the movie of how many people kind of felt that way in their corporate jobs and lives and everything. And then just to see the adventure really that he goes on with his son and his buddy to start this food truck. I was going to ask, did that have any inspiration for you? And
it really did.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So when you decided, hey, everybody loves breakfast, there's a void in the market that nobody's doing right now. What made you think Brisket Biscuit?
I love smoked meats.
Yeah.
I like to smoke pork butt. I like to smoke ribs, Anything smoked, I'm all about it. I smoked the turkeys for Thanksgiving, and we had been doing brisket there at the tap house at the casino for a while. Mm-hmm. I was like, brisket's easy. It takes a lot of time,
Right.
but it's not really that much work.
Right.
You know, you rub down the briskets, you season them, and then you just throw them in the smoker for 18 hours.
Yeah.
So, and brisket goes with eggs.
Goes with everything, in my opinion.
Goes fantastic with eggs.
Yeah.
And it's like, and obviously, you know, the name Brisket Biscuit.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
Exactly. The first time I heard it, I was like, I don't know what this place is. I don't know who they are, but I definitely need to check them out because Brisket Biscuit sounds like something I need immediately. So I was checking out your Facebook posts and everything, and I gotta say the one thing that stood out to me that I was immediately was like, oh, I've got to get one of these in my life. What is it? The eggs and Philly or eggs and steak Philly?
Egg and cheese steak.
Yeah.
Yep.
My gosh, that looks amazing.
That is my favorite thing on the menu.
Yeah.
We're named after the brisket biscuit, but that sandwich right there is the best thing that I serve.
I saw
It's wonderful.
Actually, a mutual friend of ours, Joe Gilpatrick, was the one that I saw posted on Facebook, and he showed the picture of the egg and cheese steak, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, where is this? And how do I get one right now? Because it looks phenomenal." So, give me the breakdown on that. Obviously, it's Philly cheesesteak inspired,
Right.
Yeah.
So I get peppers, I got onions, I cut all the onions, I saute them a little bit, about halfway. Whenever I make the sandwich, I cook the steak, the onions, the peppers together on my flat grill, and I scramble an egg directly into it. And then I use an Amoroso Philly roll.
Nice.
Which is, you know, the official
Philly roll. Yeah. Is it
And,
the official Cheese Whiz, or do you use a different kind of cheese sauce?
I use a cheese sauce from the supplier that I use. It's a canned cheese sauce, but it's a sharp cheddar cheese sauce. It's very, very good.
Yeah. It looks phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie. Like I've only had a salad so far today, and so I'm like starving right now. And I'm looking at these food photos and getting ready for this podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need it to be 5 o'clock so I can go get one of these sandwiches. So, tell us what else you offer on the menu. I know that you've got sandwiches and biscuits and gravy and kind of stuff. So, what all can someone expect if they're lining up in front of your truck?
Our best seller is the breakfast bowl.
Okay.
It's got our fried potatoes. I call them bits. They're fried, hash brown, seasoned, kind of like Rally's fries. They're really, really good. So I fry those up. I put them in the bottom, and then I put onions, peppers, and your choice of either brisket or sausage.
Nice.
And I cooked those up on the flat grill. Put them on the potatoes, egg, whatever way you want it cooked, over easy, sunny side up, scrambled, whatever you want.
Nice.
Goes on top of that, and then I smother the whole thing with gravy.
Who doesn't love gravy?
Who doesn't love gravy?
Sausage gravy, or are we just doing?
It's white gravy.
Okay,
it's
very
just
nice.
white gravy.
Yeah, but still, I mean, who doesn't want some white gravy in their life? Especially covering an egg soaked, and I'd have to go sunny side up, over easy. I want that
like
yolk runny
That's
all over
the way
the
I like
food.
them too.
Oh, it's the
Man.
best. So many people, you know. I watch a lot of cooking shows and different things, and it's funny. Like Gordon Ramsay is a big chef, everybody knows, and I always like laugh whenever I see him cooking like scrambled eggs or all these other things. And he's like, "You Americans all want your eggs well overcooked. Like
No.
it's terrible. He's like, they're not meant to be cooked this way." And I see people all the time ordering their stuff over hard or over medium. I'm like, what are you doing? You're just ruining the egg. It's so good if you just let that yolk just penetrate the entire bowl. I love it. I love it. So. In addition to obviously, being at Myriad this evening, what are some of the other venues where you've been, places you like to be? What kind of events do you get into?
Well, my first event that I was officially out and serving was at Barker's Brew House.
Okay.
It's that new brew house over there.
It's corner of Barker and
corner of Barker
Lloyd.
and Lloyd.
Yeah.
And they're a pretty new place. They just opened this year, and it's a brewery, and they let you bring your dogs.
Yeah.
It's just a really cool place. And I loved being out there. I got some really good business out there. I'm going to be there again this Sunday.
Very cool.
So if you guys want to come check them out, come check me out. I'll be there.
What time are you going to be there on this Sunday?
I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock.
Oh, perfect. And whenever you're doing these things, I know tonight I think I saw that you're going to be downtown at Myriad for about 3-4 hours. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's usually 3 or 4 hours. I could go longer than that, but it's, the way we sell is as supplies last.
Right.
So, and a lot of times I'll run out of something.
Right.
Not usually everything, but I'll run out of something.
Yeah, and that's a sign that you're doing something right if you're running out of something for sure. So, next question that I have that I think that a lot of people don't really think about is obviously with a food truck, It's a mobile business.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you've got to plan to be able to set up and tear down and do all the stuff that you need to do. And like you said, on occasion, you're going to run out of some supplies. One of the things that I kind of saw that made me laugh in the movie Chef really was them kind of showing them driving and like existing in the truck with everything that's going on. What are the complications of trying to drive around with like ingredients and stuff in the back of the truck? Because it's not only your transportation, but it's your kitchen as well.
Yeah. It can be a little bit of a pain because, I've got a trailer. It's not a truck. It's a trailer that I pull behind a pickup truck.
Gotcha.
And basically, I got to get back there and I got to make sure everything's going to be in a place where it's not going to fall over. It's not going to fall down.
Mm-hmm.
I did actually at one point, before I really got started, I was driving around and I got home and I went back there and opened the door and the fridge door was hanging wide open and a bunch of my stuff was on the floor.
Oh, no.
I was like, I forgot to strap the fridge door closed. So it's something that every time before you move that trailer, you got to get back there and you got to make sure everything's strapped down. You got to make sure stuff that could fall over is either in the sinks or somewhere that it's not going to fall down.
Right.
And, I've got a deep fryer in there too. So the oil in the deep fryer likes to slosh around.
Yeah, I've worked in kitchens, and even in a stationary setting, working with a deep fryer is not the easiest
You're going to
thing.
get grease all over everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, the roads in Evansville here are not exactly the best thing in the world.
There's no potholes out every single mile of every single road. What are you talking about?
So, you're driving around, you got a trailer, it's a huge trailer, dude. It's like a 30-foot trailer.
Oh my gosh!
And
I mean, there's got to be.
You're trying to navigate all the terrible drivers here in this city, and all the potholes in the road, and you just end up with stuff all over.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, not only just transporting everything. I've got a Blackstone griddle at home, and I love cooking on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that my wife will just be like, hey, can we get out the Blackstone and just do this real quick? And I'm like, well, you can't just do stuff real fast with the Blackstone. You got to prep your veggies. You got to have all this stuff ready to go. The prep work that goes into having a food truck or food trailer of any kind, I can't even imagine. People will probably think, oh, he just shows up, sets up, and he's ready to go. But I bet you have all kinds of lead-in stuff you got to do to get
absolutely.
ready.
My commissary kitchen is actually at Lombardi's New York Pizza on North Green River.
Okay, nice.
The owners there are good friends of mine. I used to work with both of them at the casino. And I spend a lot of time there. I smoke my briskets in the truck because that's where the smoker is, but I have to cool everything in their walk-in cooler because it's not, health code
right
to put it in just a home fridge.
Makes
Anything
sense.
I do has to either be done in the truck or in their kitchen.
Gotcha.
I can't do anything in my own kitchen.
Well, that's always fun. That makes everything a lot easier there too.
So, I'm often just in my driveway in the trailer, cutting onions, grilling peppers, whatever.
Yep. Makes sense. And that's one of those things that I think that, it's the overlooked things that people have to do when they're preparing food and all the stuff that, everybody just looks at the finished product and thinks, oh, you just threw some steak on onions on the griddle and it was all good to go. And it's like, I know for a fact that's not how it works. Because even just home cooking for myself, I'm like, when
you got prep to do.
Yeah, if I'm doing like Philly cheesesteaks at home on the Blackstone, I've got like 2 hours of prep work that I do to get all my stuff ready to go. So I can only imagine what you're going through, getting all those onions cut and all those peppers done as well.
Being in the business as long as I have, I can get through a 10-pound bag of onions in 15 minutes. It doesn't take me any time.
I bet your knife skills are significantly better than mine. I knock on wood, I haven't cut myself yet, but I'll tell you that's one thing that I struggle with is I watch everybody on like culinary shows and all this stuff, and they're just, I'm like, how is that even possible? How do you do that?
Well, practice. And you got to cut yourself a few times before you really get the hang of it. But I got to tell you, I've cut myself more on things that aren't knives than I've cut myself with knives.
Really?
Just silly stuff like, oh, this cart had a little jagged edge when I went to put my tray of prepped food on it, and it got me. Or one time when I was working at the Mamma Mia's, the pizza place there at the casino, I reached into a cooler, and there was a hard piece of cheese on a cold slice of pizza that cut my hand.
Oh, my gosh.
I got cut by a pizza. So It's not always the knife that's the most dangerous thing.
I actually I believe that. I worked in food in high school. I was at McDonald's in Princeton, so I had a little bit of kitchen experience on like the corporate. Hey, we're gonna put frozen patties down, press a couple buttons, and that's cooking. But you're absolutely correct. Most of the stuff that I was ever injured on was the things that you would never anticipate. I'll never forget one time it was scooping ice out of the giant ice bin, and there was one like icicle basically that I formed and just sliced my arm open.
Yep.
And I was like, oh great, hey, two things that we have to deal with now. I cut myself, and by the way, all that ice is contaminated.
No, I got to get rid of that ice.
Yeah. So it's too funny. So you already answered what your most popular dish is and what your favorite dish is. What's the most complicated dish that you have to make?
I'd have to say it's probably the sausage.
Oh yeah.
I buy a pre-ground pork product, but the sausage, the recipe is actually from my grandfather.
Oh, awesome.
My grandfather, Felix Marchesa, is an old Italian. He had this recipe, and I used to eat it all the time growing up.
Yeah.
So it's something that I season every batch myself. I cook it, and I put it all together on the biscuits and gravy. It goes on the bowls. So
you spend a lot of time getting it right and making sure it
Yep.
tastes like Grandpa used to make it, huh?
it has to taste just like Grandpa used to make it.
I love it. That's something that, anything that you can do in any business, I find, like when you can connect it to something personally and really show your passion on it, I think that stands out 100%, and people recognize that kind of attention to detail. So, when you decided, hey, I'm going to go do my own thing, I'm going to start this food truck business, I'm going to do that, what kind of research went into kind of figuring out what you had to do? Because it's not, like you already mentioned, you got to get permits and do these things. It's not just setting up a trailer and starting to cook and hand out food.
Yeah, it was a lot of learn as I went. The food part of it, I already knew how to do. I learned all that stuff when I was working at the casino.
Right.
So, I knew how to run a food cost. I knew how to put orders together, and it was mostly just I had to find a trailer that suited my needs, and there's not a whole lot out there.
I believe it.
Everything I was finding was either like in Florida or in Oregon, or it was way too expensive. I went and looked at one, early on. It was a truck, and it was just filthy, disgusting. It'd been sitting in this barn for like 2 years.
Oh.
I was like, man, I got to find something. But fortunately, I found this trailer in Kentucky, a couple hours away. And it was what I was looking for. So after I got the trailer together, it just came down to figuring out what I had to do to get my permits. And thankfully, I know a lot of people in the business, and I had a lot of help.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's one thing I tell everybody. It doesn't matter, real estate, food, whatever it is. Finding somebody who can offer you advice, someone who's been there before, or, can say, hey, these are the pitfalls that I made that you can avoid and all that stuff. I think that is something that is often overlooked by a lot of people. We have this entrepreneur culture where everybody, wants to be their own person. They want to be an influencer on Instagram and want to try to do their own thing. And they don't recognize just how important mentorship and relationships can be to help you get your business going. Uh-oh. It's tighten that little guy right there.
Just trying to turn it just a little bit.
There you go. So, but that's something that, I'm in management at FC Tucker, and so when we have new agents coming in and everything else, they're like, well, I'm just going to get out there, I'm going to crush it, I'm going to do this stuff. And I'm like, hey, surround yourself by people who have been there and done that, and ask the questions, because I can tell you right now, when I started 17 years ago, I felt like I knew what I was doing. But if you put that guy next to me today, I would run circles around that guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. You always think you know what you're doing, but you find out very quickly that you really don't.
Right.
And even if you put on a facade of, I still got this,
Yep.
A facade of confidence, you're still going to have those questions. So it's good to have somebody to ask.
100%. So a little bit of backstory now just on Brisket Biscuit itself. It's kind of a tongue twister. When did you guys actually open up and start serving food for the first time?
Our first event was at Barker Brew House. It was not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before.
Very cool.
There was a small private catered event before that, the Monday before that, but it wasn't like a public thing. It was just a friend of mine from high school, Reba Odom, you might know her.
Okay, yeah, I do. Yeah.
She hired me for her company to come feed some employees over at the junkyard over in Evansville on the, I guess that's the north side.
Yeah, yep.
And it was just like 50 people. I got there at like 5 a.m. and served 50 meals and got a check.
Nice.
So, but yeah, to the public, Barker, a little less than 2 weeks ago, was my first open event.
Very cool. How did it go for you?
It went very, very well. We had a lot of turnout that day. It was actually my busiest day so far.
Very cool. Yeah, I tell you what, that's one of those things that you never know how it's going to go, and then just to get out there and experience it for the first time.
I had a lot of anxiety just leading up to it. Like, I don't know what it's going to be like. What's it going to be like? Am I going to be busy? Am I going to be dead? I don't know what to expect. And then we got through it, and it was fine, and it was great. And after it was over, it was just like a weight was lifted off me.
It's like
all the exhaustion from the previous few days just hit me all at once. I was like, oh, I need a nap.
I can imagine. I know exactly what that feeling is like. I got asked to do a public speaking event for the first time. I want to say it's like 6 years ago or so now. And I love talking, and I love educating, and I love doing all this stuff. And they asked me to talk about utilizing video and social media in your business. So obviously things that I'm real comfortable with and real familiar with. But I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. And I prepped and I prepped and I prepped and I went through it and everything. And I got there to the day of the event, and I'm like, are these people even going to like what I have to say? What am I going to do? And then whenever I got going and I got rolling and I hit my stride, when you do something that you're supposed to do, I had the same thing. It was like, oh, this is amazing. It's awesome. And then I was like, I'm exhausted.
You get through it and you're like, yep, I nailed it. Now it's time to bed.
Yeah, absolutely. So since we're just getting started with Brisket Biscuit, we got some things, obviously that you've already got under your belt, great things going on. What are your future goals for the food truck? Like, what are your long-term plans?
Long-term, I mean, I'm going to keep this going for at least, a few years. And if I eventually get to a point where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, the thing is, you can sell it.
Right.
It's not a building that you have to try to get rid of. It's not a whole business you have to try to sell. It's just, I can say this business is over and I can sell the trailer. But I don't really want to do that anytime soon.
Yeah, fantastic.
So I'm hoping to, get a few places where I can be like, oh, I'm going to be at this place every Wednesday. I'm going to be at this place every Friday. So I'm a little bit more consistent and people can find me a little bit easier.
There you go.
I'm not quite there yet. I've got a lot of events scheduled, but a lot of them are one-offs.
Hey, you know what? Getting those one-offs and getting in front of the people and making sure that they can taste the food and get to know who you are and what you're doing, that's a great way to get going. And the other cool thing is, like you said, because it isn't a building, you have the option to kind of diversify and see other areas and find out, hey, maybe this spot that I thought was going to be great isn't the best, and this place over here is even better, so we can start doubling down on doing that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think being agile and being able to be mobile, that's the coolest thing, in my opinion, about food trucks. I was in Austin, Texas, years ago, and it was the first time I'd ever even heard of or seen a food truck because, Evansville, Indiana, we're not really on the cutting edge of all of the trends.
We're a few years behind on everything.
Yeah.
So,
but whenever I saw it for the first time and tasted how good the food can be and everything else, because you think, everybody always said food out of a truck, how good can it be? And it was amazing. And I was like, dude, we need this in Evansville. And
absolutely.
To see more people getting into the game and come into the area, especially with a beautiful, amazing menu of just comfort food like you're offering, I am ecstatic to have you guys in the marketplace, and I cannot wait to taste your food.
That's awesome.
So that's all the questions I got for you today, because I'm going to wait until we can get together at another point when you're actually out in the field, see you in action, maybe get some video of that going on, and also taste and review all the food that you've got. So I'm looking forward to that. So thanks so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you guys out and about.
All right.